today is exactly 2 years since the cold-blooded murder of brave whistleblower Babita Deokaran. But this horrific anniversary is marked by the sentencing of the 6 men directly involved in a shooting outside a home. She was one of a handful of witnesses in a massive tender fraud investigation at the Gauteng Health Department. Jeff Wicks is a News 24 investigative journalist. Sentences for the 6 convicted criminals between 8 and 22 years. They entered into a plea bargain with the NPA and the courts. But do we know if this plea bargain also comes with their commitment to providing more detail who is the overall mastermind of Babita Deokaran's assassination? Jeff?
Good morning, Lester. Yes, so you are correct. The plea and sentencing agreement was inked yesterday, and as part of that, it appears that these 6 men have made certain admissions before the court and sort of sketched their role in the murder and also pointed to other figures who have been previously unknown. Most specifically and notably is a man by the name of Kanyisani Mpongose, who they style as the one who recruited them to partake in this murder. They limited their own involvement to being drivers and scouts, but under the doctrine of common purpose, they are just as guilty as those who pulled the trigger. They say they did not pull the trigger. It was Mpongose and another unknown figure. So, it leaves us with a bit of a bitter taste in the mouth and a bit of a hollow victory, because whilst it's justice that these men all go inside for their roles in this killing, and I find it frankly disgusting that they were laughing and celebrating their sentence when they were walking down into the grills. We now know that the Hawks unit investigating this case was in fact no closer to identifying the mastermind of this murder 2 years later, and they had not yet identified this Mpongose character. So that raises serious questions about the quality and about the drive of the investigation to get this murder solved to its entirety and not just putting the trigger men behind bars.
Jeff, Mpongose described as the so-called middlemen, and that these now 6 convicted men were almost like subcontractors to Mpongose. Is Mpongose, if he is ever found, ever put on trial, ever interrogated, is he going to give more clarity on who could have been the ultimate mastermind? From your reporting over the last 2 years for News 24, you've dealt with, in this particular case, key political figures into corruption in the Gauteng Health Department. Does this mean that the 6 men convicted yesterday are only on the lowest rung that could go all the way to the top, involving key political characters?
I think that's a reasonable inference, Lester, and I think if we consider what history has taught us about Izinkabi, notorious taxi hitmen, and these assassinations, is that they are ordered through proxies in several layers to place daylight between the person actually intending to, wanting the hit to be carried out, and those who pull the trigger. And I think this murder fits that archetype. We've got 6 individuals with, tangible links to the taxi industry who were seemingly recruited and then executed this murder for a fee. And that's another question that needs to be interrogated, because the plea that was placed before court yesterday was silent on the money that they received. That money had to come from somewhere. And I suspect that will be an avenue of further investigation for the police. Although it does beg a belief that would only happen now, 2 years on. So I think it's common cause at this point to say that the Hawks have failed in their investigation. They'll claim a key victory in terms of getting this conviction, but really that should go to the NPA, because what we need to see is assassinations like this one, and like Clutter Murray, and like AKA, being investigated to their fullest entirety, and not only the people who pulled the trigger before court, but the masterminds as well.
Meanwhile, and this is what you've been reporting on and doggedly investigating over the last 2 years, and it comes at the cost of Babita Deokaran's life, is the investigation into the Tembisa Hospital scandal and the associate corruption in the Gauteng Health Department. SIU proclamation into that 1 billion rand scandal. Where is the investigation currently, for which Babita Deokaran 2 years ago paid the ultimate price to get kickstarted?
So we know that the proclamation was signed recently, and that document empowers SIU investigators to use the full array of their investigative arsenal. So powers of subpoena, looking at bank accounts and phone records. We understand that this can only start when this is proclaimed. So it's a sad reality of this Babita Deokaran case is that 2 years have passed since her assassination, and only now the SIU has been let loose to track down those who really benefited from this grand-scale graft. In an ideal world, when Babita Deokaran first reported her concerns 3 weeks before her murder, this should have been investigated, payments should have been stopped, and she should have been given protection. However, this is not an ideal world, and nothing was done after she raised the flag, and only now the SIU is looking like they may get going.
Jeff Wicks, News 24 investigative journalist.